Hello again, off the top. Do you agree or disagree? 3 topics, 2 minutes each. Anything goes. There are no taboos. Many people think the topic of adult movies is taboo, but we have to address it now. A group in Los Angeles has collected the required signatures to get a measure on the ballot that would require adult actors to wear condoms at all movies shot in the state of California. How do you vote? A coalition known as For Adult Industry Responsibility wants to tie film permits into requiring actors wear condoms on the set. It's state law now, but not widely enforced. Members of the adult industry are against it.
If such a regulation were to be on the books, the only impact that would have is that it would drive production out of state or underground, and it would actually create a less safe instead of a more safe environment.
So, should the adult industry regulate itself, or should the public make the rules? Joining us to talk about that, Doctor of Social Ethics, Charlotte Laws. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Charlotte, is this issue something the public should vote on?
No, they shouldn't. And I actually agree with what the quote you had earlier. It definitely will drive business out of the city and out of the state. Currently, in the state of California, there are about 12,000 jobs that we get because of the porn industry. And tax-wise, it brings the state about $36 million. In fact, LA is #1 in this country for porn. San Francisco is #5. San Diego is #8. And the United States in general is the 4th in the whole world when it comes to adult entertainment. China's first, South Korea, then Japan, and then the United States. And it's a huge industry. I mean, it's a very important industry because 1 out of every 4 searches on the internet are for porn. And people that go into this industry know that it's a buyer beware job. It's like being a lion tamer or a police officer or going into the military. It's a dangerous job. And if you don't want to assume that danger, then you shouldn't do it.
Well,
but the customer wants to see porn without condoms. That's what they want to see.
All right, here's what we've learned so far. You obviously conduct a great number of internet searches to find out that information. Secondly, though, there is always a concern about the outbreak of AIDS, and the public is concerned about that. But I'm not so sure that whether you watch adult movies or not, you, the public, should make the determination on what should happen in the movies. You have the option of not watching them.
Well, that's absolutely true. And there are no statistics that show the HIV numbers are higher for those in the adult entertainment industry. So there is nothing that shows that. Now, with respect to other venereal disease and other types of diseases, yes, it's about 20% higher. So there are statistics to support that, but not HIV. So, yeah, I agree with you, Fred. I don't think we should be voting on this. And I don't even understand how you enforce in this particular industry. It doesn't really make any sense to me. How do you do that? You have public officials sitting around watching porn movies trying to determine if someone's wearing a condom, and then how do you arrest somebody? How do you know where that movie originated?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right. All right. Well, we know how you feel about that. Let's see how you feel about this. When it comes to smoking pot, things can become a little hazy. First, Prop 215 allowed medical marijuana dispensaries to be open. Then the LA City Council determined there were too many and voted to limit the number and regulate where they could be placed. Now an appeals court has ruled the city can't do that. Now what do? City Councilman Jose Huizar says the new plan should be to shut them all down. If we can't regulate them, if we can't control them, get rid of them. Huizar is concerned that pot shops will pop up on every corner. Medical marijuana advocates think that's insanity and believes there is something the city can do besides shutting everything down. Does Huizar have a point, or is there another way, Charlotte?
I don't agree with Huizar on this. What he wants to do is he wants to ban them until the California Supreme Court makes a decision, which could be 6 months to 2 years from now, about how much control localities have on this particular issue. But banning them makes no sense because, first of all, there are people who have chronic illness and pain who really need medical marijuana. They need to be able to get it. It's not that easy to cultivate on your own and to grow it in a proper way. And all this is going to do is drive them underground. They're going to go back to the drug dealers, back to the gang members. The drug dealers are going to go into the schools, and then there's going to be more crime. And currently, these dispensaries, they do not have an increase of crime associated with dispensaries. And I'm on a local council, on the Greater Valley Glen Council, and my council doesn't like these medical marijuana dispensaries, so they're always looking to associate it with crime. And police officers come to our meetings, and they're always asking, is there a crime associated? Because they're hoping the answer is yes. And every police officer over all these years has said, no, There is not. But with respect to the ordinance that that the LA City Council passed on this issue, I don't like the fact that they limited the number of dispensaries. There were about 800 or so in the city. Then they decided, oh no, we're only going to have about 80.
But you know why. But you know why they did that, Charlotte. I mean, you're aware of the fact that they limited that number because they were of the impression, and probably rightfully so, these were not all collectives supplying medical marijuana. It was basically walking to a pot shop and buy enough to roll a couple of joints. And that wasn't the intention of this originally.
I know, but I think that happens anyway now, a lot of the time. And I don't think that limiting the number has anything to do with how many people are cheating the system, per se. But it's like the city council was basically picking winners. They're saying, okay, you guys can make a lot of money, and the other business is too bad. We need to employ people right now. We don't need to have a whole bunch of people with a lot of money and everybody else with no money. And because these businesses don't advertise, it's not like you drive down the street and say, oh, look at all the pot shops. You have to seek them out to find them. There's like no signage on these places.
Charlotte, I understand people need jobs, but they don't have to be employed as pot dealers. I mean, you can't use that argument. You cannot use that argument. Well, the reason we need all these pot shops is because people are unemployed.
But
let them sell pot.
Do you think there are more people that are going to do medical marijuana if there are more shops? I don't think it makes any difference whether one shop gets a lot of business or lots of shops get a little business.
I agree. All right. Talking about people that are out of work and need jobs, the Occupy movement around the country may not have accomplished much other than showing the approach of police departments in different cities. In Oakland, police told people to leave, and when they didn't, they made them leave. They used force and rubber bullets. On the campus of UC Davis, police calmly walked down the line and fired pepper spray into people's faces to get them to move. And in Los Angeles, city officials gave occupiers plenty of notice. Police did the same. There were over 200 arrests, but no violence. The mayor and police chief held a news conference to talk about the wonderful job they did. Steve Lopez of the LA Times thought that was absurd. Absurd they trumpeted the fact they did their job well, and it was a waste of time and taxpayers' money. Do you like the way the city handled the situation, Charlotte, and do they deserve to take a bow?
Well, somebody needs to occupy the mayor's brain, but I'm just kidding. I'm glad that it was peaceful, but I don't agree on lots of levels. The main thing I don't agree with was the fact that these people were allowed to have an exemption and stay there for 2 months.
Well, that's just the city council posturing, as they always do.
And the mayor.
And the mayor, that's fair.
I know, but it's a problem now because, we've set a precedent. So if the neo-Nazis want to be there for 2 months and spend the night, they pretty much are going to have to say yes. If the anti-illegal immigration people want to be there for 2 months, they're going to have to say yes. And the reason why they shouldn't have done this is because in 1984, the U.S. Supreme Court said that public officials need to be content neutral. So when something like this happens, they can say, oh, sure, anybody can protest from 8 to 5, but they can't be saying, oh, we love Occupy LA people. You can spend the night for 2 months. But neo-Nazis, no. You better be there from 8 to 5, and then you better go home. They can't be doing that, or there are going to be lawsuits against the city, and the taxpayer is going to have to pay the cost of that.
And that's really the issue. Now the taxpayers, you have a bunch of people complaining they don't like the system, and they say it's their right to camp out. The city allowed them to do so. Now you, I, and all the taxpayers are paying for the people that don't like the system.
Right. I mean, I don't understand how they needed 1,700 police officers for less than 300 protesters. That is about 5 to 6 officers per person. I don't understand why they needed to spend over $1 million on this. And as I said, if they didn't stay for 2 months, I don't think they would have spent that kind of money on it. So, I understand people have a right to protest, and I support that. I even support many of the aims of this particular movement. Not all of them, but some of them. And so I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with the exception and going overboard, and the city council kind of sucking up to them and going, oh, yes, we love you. And the mayor saying, yes, we love you, stay forever. I think that's a big problem, and I do think we've set a really bad precedent now.
And it is a precedent, I'm sure, that will be tested throughout time. Charlotte, nice job. Always good talking to you. I'll talk to you again.
Okay.